Hey everyone, welcome to today's Cornerstone Connection Daily Devotional. My name is Nate Carter, and today I have the pleasure of walking you through Romans chapter 12. It's the so what of the book of Romans. After Paul has finished walking us through some of the tenets of the faith, some great deep theology, it's the so what. What do we do with that? And by the way, if you want to listen to a great recording, look up Miles Davis's recording of So What, 1959. Maybe put it on in the background while we go through this devotional together. Before you get to Romans 12, I just want to remind you of how Romans 11 ends, beginning with verse 33. Oh, how great are God's riches and wisdom and knowledge. How impossible it is for us to understand his decisions and his ways. For who can know the Lord's thoughts? Who knows enough to give him advice? And who has given him so much that he needs to pay it back? For everything comes from him and exists by his power and is intended for his glory. All glory to him forever and ever. Amen. We end with this wonderful doxology about the greatness of God after reminding us of the grace that he has shown to all people. And so what? Romans 12:1. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. Did you know that worship is a response? When we gather on a Sunday morning to worship God, it's a response to what he's already done for us. And so God begins the conversation. God offers his son Jesus to us as the perfect once and for all sacrifice. And we respond in worship by praising his name, by praying to him, by singing to him, by reading his word. But it begins with God. And in the same way, God has shown his great love to us by the gift of his son, Jesus Christ. And how do we respond? In worship by giving our bodies to him as a living and holy sacrifice. Verse 2, don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. So in other words, the way we worship God in our day-to-day lives is by giving ourselves to God, giving our bodies to him, giving our minds to him, giving our thoughts to him, our actions. Everything we do and think is dedicated to honoring God because of what he's done for us. Now, for some of us, that requires a course correction. For some of us, we are giving in to the customs and ways of this world. And we need to take a moment here after this devotional, just pause and think, God, what do I need to give up? How do I need to change the way I'm thinking? How am I buying into the ways of this world? We heard a little bit about that in our sermon this past Sunday. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. That's how verse 2 ends. Now, a lot of Christians get hung up on the will of God. What is God's will for my life? And, I'm just not so worried about that. I think that if we are giving our bodies and our minds to God as a living sacrifice, he's going to reveal to us the big and little steps in our lives that we need to do to honor him. For some of you, like me, that means a life of full-time ministry. For some of you, it means living out your life in a regular day-to-day job, but being a light for Christ in the midst of that. And that's an awesome calling. For some of you, it's to raise your children, to spend full-time hours raising your children and teaching them the ways of God, teaching them how to live in the world. And that's an awesome full-time job. That's a great way to honor God with your bodies and with your minds. So let's not get too hung up for what's God's will for my life when we know that just if we're following him, we're following his ways, if we're living for him, if we're changing the ways we think and act, we'll know God's will for our lives and we'll be pleasing to him. I tell you again, I can't find a way to summarize this chapter into 5 minutes. It's so good, and I encourage you to read it slowly and read it with a smile on your face because it's such a joyful reflection of what God has done for us and how we respond. But I do want to point out verse 12. It kind of gives us a backdrop for how we should live, kind of at the end of the day, Verse 12, rejoice in our confident hope. Be patient in trouble and keep on praying. If there's a little to-do list for your life, it's right there. Whatever you do, rejoice in your confident hope. And when you have trouble, because you will, be patient. Don't give up on God. Know that he's still with you. Be patient. Go through it and wait for him to bring you through. And keep on praying. Keep on praying. In everything you do, whether it's giving thanks for where you are in life or pleading with God to help you through it, keep on praying. All right, guys, I have not done this chapter justice. There's so much to read and just soak in. So do it. Read chapter 12 of Romans here today and let it instruct you for the so what. How do we respond to God's gracious gift by living out our day-to-day lives? Enjoy it. Read it through it slowly, and we'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.